The fans have spoken, the cast of Deadpool and Wolverine has spoken, and Wesley Snipes himself has spoken. And Disney Marvel is still completely lost as it pertains to how to reboot this franchise. So I say it's time to scrap the reboot and proceed with this Logan-style send-off for Wesley Snipes' Blade that everyone seems to be on board with. And now even the X-Men 97 showrunner is making pitches for a potential Blade 4. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
He called and told me, he said, you know, I have this idea. And he told me what the idea was. And I was like, I don't know how the hell you're going to pull that off. It's very unlikely. And I said, well, if you can make it happen, sure.
Marvel Studios has done a ton of damage in recent years to their brand, mostly because of the way that they handled the MCU post-Endgame. That includes them trying to force characters on the audience that none of us give a shit about.
I don't care!
Once you lose characters the caliber of Tony Stark or Steve Rogers, you are going to be hard-pressed to find suitable replacements, especially without spending years building new characters up to that level. And Marvel Studios clearly doesn't have the time, inclination, or patience to do something like that. So what's the answer? Well, Marvel Studios clearly came to the realization that the best thing for them to do is to reach into the past and pull beloved and established characters from pre-Disney Marvel projects and insert them into the MCU. Now, I would prefer if they treated these characters with a little bit more care and meaning than they were treated in Deadpool and Wolverine. I have no interest in seeing them paraded around in a brief cameo appearance like a gimmick to pop a box office number.
No, don't like that.
That being said, if these cameos could lead to something bigger for these characters, then that might be something I could get on board with. If these cameos reinvigorate people's love of these characters enough to the point that Marvel Studios has to take notice and do something about it, then I might be okay with that. The key, as always, if Marvel Studios decides to go through with this, is that they have to put in the work and they have to give these characters the continuation or the finales that they deserve. Since Deadpool and Wolverine's release, I've heard rumblings of a Channing Tatum Gambit film possibly being on the table. I'm not really sure how that one would play out, because his inclusion came off as more of a comedy bit than anything. I've heard rumors of Henry Cavill's Wolverine also not being a one-off, based on the response that it's gotten. Will he be the main MCU Wolverine when the inevitable X-Men reboot happens? That remains to be seen. I'd personally prefer more of a Elseworlds tale as it pertains to Cavilline, rather than having him in something where he is directly connected to the MCU.
Not impressed.
And then we have the one that most people seem to be excited about, that being Wesley Snipes as Blade. Now, this situation is a little bit unique because this features an established character who never really got the send-off that he deserved. There was no closure to his story, so there is potential there if Marvel wants to take this opportunity seriously and do right by Wesley Snipes. And the more I think about it, they really should consider it, because comic book movies would not be where they are today without those original Blade movies. The key to a Logan-style Old Man Blade movie, if they decide to proceed with it, will be the story. And now, former Marvel Studios writer and X-Men 97 showrunner, Beau Demayo, has pitched his idea for a Wesley Snipes starring Blade 4. His idea is described by him as, quote, vampire dystopia, where they learned to daywalk and basically took over. Demayo then tweeted, Brother Voodoo, part of the human resistance, learns that Blade was entombed and resurrects him so they can hunt Varney and the Darkhold cult to wipe out all vampires. Treat it like Kurosawa.
Shut up and take my money!
To me, this sounds infinitely more interesting than any of the rumors we've heard so far about a potential Blade reboot. I mean, turning Blade into the Nick Fury of the underworld, or whatever they may or may not have planned. Now, I didn't personally watch X-Men 97, but I do know that a lot of people seem to enjoy it. So I can assume that Beau Demayo is at least somewhat of a competent writer to an extent. In fact, his ideas are not all that different from my own ideas of how I would do an Old Man Blade film. I also had the idea to set it in a dystopian future where vampires had taken over. The only difference would be I picture it happens because of something that Blade inadvertently did. Like maybe the quote-unquote cure they were working on in the first Blade movie ended up accelerating the process instead, and the vampires basically took over because Blade could not keep up with them spreading. You could definitely have a small human resistance of sorts contained within the film that Blade doesn't even know exists. So most of the film would be I Am Legend-esque, with Blade coming to terms with what happened, blaming himself, but at some point he realizes that there are still humans out there and he has to get back into the fight. This of course coming after a long hiatus and a period of hibernation. You need something or someone in the film to re-inspire him. And who knows, maybe he even goes out in the same way that Logan did, protecting what is left of the human resistance.
I'm in a glass case of emotion!
As I said, very similar to Beau's pitch, but either way, these two movies sound like something that I would definitely want to see. If in fact the goal is to complete Blade's arc in a satisfying and respectful way. As it stands right now, if I were Marvel Studios, I would give someone like Beau Demayo a chance. I know their split wasn't the best, but who knows, maybe they can put their differences aside for the greater good. I don't give a f if he has an OnlyFans account and sells pictures of his feet. If he can make a good Blade movie, let it happen.
We were on the verge of greatness. We were this close.
Will this movie ever come to fruition? Only time will tell. But the amount of vocal support that a possible return of Wesley Snipes as Blade is getting has to resonate with somebody at Marvel Studios. They have to see the potential there. Otherwise, they might be even more incompetent than we previously thought. It's time to put the ego aside, admit that you f***ed up with Phase 4, and just give people what they want. This is the only way you are going to inspire confidence in this brand again, to the point that it may be able to thrive into the future. Like Wesley Snipes once tweeted about the reboot, you are missing the secret sauce, and that secret sauce is Wesley Snipes himself. So don't be stupid and let this opportunity pass you by. It is literally a license to print money.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Y'all be cool. Right on.